All right, time to dive into all the drama from this latest Trump-Harris showdown. We've got a mountain of news to unpack after that explosive debate. Trust me, you do not want to miss this.
It's been wild. The polls are spinning, campaign strategies are getting flipped on their head, and we're seeing the impact reach way beyond the debate stage.
So much to unpack. Let's go straight to the heart of it, the debate. Who won?
Oh, public opinion is pretty united on this one. Harris took home a clear victory. Her favorability ratings have skyrocketed across all the major polls.
Yeah, I was looking at 538 this morning.
538 actually has her leading nationally by a solid margin, 2.8 points to be exact.
Wow, that's a significant lead. What caused such a swing in her favor? Anything in particular?
The independent vote is really the story here. A full 50% believe Harris won. And that's huge, right? Swaying those undecided voters is going to be critical, especially as we get closer and closer to the election.
I bet that's got a sting for the Trump campaign. All those claims of a clear win, guess those didn't quite age well. Speaking of the Trump campaign, what's their game plan now that the polls aren't looking so hot?
While Trump opting out of further debates, that's certainly a choice.
Bold, to say the least.
It does kind of make you wonder if they're feeling a little unsure about getting a grip on the narrative again.
Risky move, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But hey, maybe they figure sometimes the best defense is a totally unrelated offense. Okay, maybe not the best analogy. But let's get back to something a little more concrete. Did this big debate win translate to actual support for Harris? I heard she's swimming in donations.
You heard right. She raised a mind-blowing $47 million in donations within 24 hours of the debate ending.
You're kidding.
More than double her previous record.
Wow, talk about putting your money where your mouth is. Clearly, she really struck a nerve with the voters. Okay, let's shift gears for a minute and move beyond the horse race. Polls, donations, all that aside, what were some of the big policy points that came out of this debate? What should people be paying attention to?
Two main areas come to mind: the economy and social issues.
Makes sense. Those are always big ones.
On the economic side, Harris really went after Trump's import tariff proposal. A lot of experts are saying that could make prices for everyday things go way up.
Yeah, and people are already struggling with the cost of living.
Exactly. Not exactly going to win you any favors with voters if they think their wallets are about to take a hit.
Speaking of taking a hit, you always love thinking into the fine print. Were there any specific examples that came up that really highlight how these policies might play out?
Oh, there was one that really stood out. Harris brought up this thing called Project 2025.
Ooh, a secret plan. Now, this is what we like to hear.
It's not exactly top secret, but it's definitely raising some eyebrows.
Go on, I'm hooked.
Project 2025 is basically this super detailed plan that was put together by a group of conservative organizations. It lays out what a potential second term under Trump could look like, a blueprint, if you will.
Okay, so we've got a plan. But where does Trump himself fit into all of this? Is he on board with this Project 2025?
That's the million-dollar question.
Right.
Trump says he doesn't know anything about it, had no involvement, but Harris is arguing that it's basically his secret agenda for another 4 years.
A secret agenda. So we've got a nervous economy, a controversial plan for the future, and a whole lot of mystery swirling around.
Yeah.
Anything else go down in this showdown?
Well, the abortion debate was predictably heated, but there might be a major shift in Trump's stance on the horizon.
Oh, really?
Harris actually came right out and said that Trump is going for a nationwide abortion ban.
Wow.
Which is a pretty big deal because it goes against his usual leave it to the states line.
That is different.
And it could really backfire with moderate voters who like their social issues with a little more nuance.
Yeah, it's a pretty big departure from his usual stance. And speaking of big, this debate, it wasn't just a big deal here. It's having ripples internationally.
Right. The whole world's watching. Anyone in particular on the edge of their seats. Our friends up north, Canada, they're definitely paying attention. Those protectionist trade policies Trump keeps talking about, especially his stance on the USMCA, that could have a massive impact on their economy.
So a second term for Trump could mean shaking things up with Canada on trade. Definitely something to keep an eye on. Okay, and just to throw even more fuel on the fire, I even heard the Pope had something to say about this election. What's the deal there?
It's true. Even the Vatican jumped in. Pope Francis actually condemned both candidates on certain issues, raised some ethical questions about some of their stances.
Wow. Talk about adding another layer of intrigue to an already crazy race. But before we go too far down the rabbit hole with papal pronouncements, let's get back to Project 2025. This plan's causing quite the uproar. What's in it that has everyone so fired up?
Well, It basically calls for a total overhaul of the federal government.
Hmm.
We're talking everything from the justice system to environmental regulations to social programs. Think of it like the ultimate conservative wish list for a Trump second term.
A wish list, huh?
Oh.
Okay, so what's at the top of their list? Give me the highlights or maybe the lowlights, depending how you see it.
One that's really ruffling feathers is its take on climate change. Now, Trump's already been known to downplay the whole thing, but Project 2025, this goes even further. We're talking about completely dismantling a lot of the environmental protections that have been put in place over the years.
And we know climate change is such a hot-button issue. It's not just about the environment anymore. It's about the economy, national security, the whole 9 yards.
Absolutely, it touches everything. And that's why this plan's causing such a stir. It's a huge shift from where things are right now. We could be looking at a major shakeup on a global scale.
So we've got this super controversial plan floating around, a candidate who swears he knows nothing about it, and a public left trying to put the pieces together. What's the takeaway for our listeners here? What should they be watching out for as this story develops?
I'd say keep a close eye on how Trump handles this Project 2025 thing in the next couple of weeks. Will he keep dodging it, or will he have to actually address it directly?
What about Harris? What's her next move? She's
Yeah.
riding a wave right now. How does she keep that momentum going?
This is a golden opportunity for her to really solidify her lead and maybe even win over some new voters. My guess is she's going to keep hammering home those economic arguments, especially how Trump's policies could end up hurting everyday Americans. Highlighting that contrast is key.
So basically, draw a line in the sand, her vision versus his vision.
Exactly. But it goes beyond policy, right? Also
Mm.
about leadership. I expect we'll see Harris playing up her experience, her qualifications, offering a stark contrast to Trump's, well, let's just say unconventional style.
It's the classic battle of the veteran politician versus the unpredictable wild card.
Yeah,
This election's turning into a real nail-biter.
no doubt about it. And this is just one piece of the puzzle. We've still got weeks to go before Election Day. A lot can happen between now and then.
That's the truth. Okay, so as we wrap up our deep dive into this game-changing moment in the race, what's the one thing you want our listeners to remember?
It's true, anything can happen.
So we've covered a ton of ground here, from the debate stage to the polls to the global stage. What's the bottom line for our candidates in this final stretch?
This debate was a turning point, no question. It revealed some big vulnerabilities for both Trump and Harris as we head into the final weeks.
Okay, let's break it down. What are the big challenges, the big opportunities they each face?
For Trump, it's all about getting control of the narrative again. He's got to find a way to counter all that momentum Harris picked up and reassure those voters who are suddenly wondering about his temperament, his vision for another term.
Especially with Project 2025 hanging over his head, right?
Exactly. Project 2025 is definitely looming large.
So how does he shake that off? What's the play for the Trump campaign from here?
He can't just keep dodging the Project 2025 question forever. He's got to address it head on. Either come out and clarify where he stands on it or distance himself from the more extreme parts.
That's a tough needle to thread.
No kidding. And what about Harris? Well, she's got the wind at her back right now.
Good time.
This is her chance to really solidify her gains, maybe even broaden her appeal a bit. I think she'll keep hammering those economic points. Show voters how Trump's policies could hurt them in their everyday lives. Highlighting that contrast will be huge.
So really draw a line in the sand. Her vision versus Trump's vision.
Exactly. But it's not just policy, is it? It's leadership, too. I think we'll see Harris emphasizing her experience, all those years she spent in government, offering voters a clear alternative to Trump's, shall we say, less conventional style.
The veteran politician versus the wild card. Classic. This is getting good.
It is. Remember, though, this is just one piece of the puzzle. We've got a long way to go before November.
So true. Okay, as we wrap things up here, what's the main takeaway you want to leave our listeners with?
Stay engaged. Pay attention. You never know when a single event can completely change the course of history. This debate was a perfect example. The race is far from over. Every single voice matters.
I love that. Couldn't have said it better myself. Now go out there and make those voices heard. And remember, whether you're at a watch party, chatting with friends, or just scrolling online, you've got the inside scoop now. You can sound like a total political pro. Thanks for joining us for another deep dive.